Welcome to part 6 of Members Monday. Oh, no. Started again. Oh no, we're live. Welcome to part 6 of 30 for 30 Excel VBA Absolute Beginner course. What a terrible start to the week, eh? How are you doing? So in Excel VBA, we have 5 learning blocks. These are 5 key areas you have to know in order to make progress with Excel VBA. And the good news is today we are covering the last one. So those 5 areas are working with ranges, working with variables, loops, position control, and what we're going to do today, which is conditional statements. So my question to get you thinking about this topic is, what on earth do we mean by a conditional statement? And what is the little word that we use in Excel, in Formulae and in VBA to get us started with conditional statements? Let me know in the chat. Right, let's say hello to some people and let me know, please, can you hear me and can you see me? Let's get into the chat. Welcome to everybody today who is with us. We've got Ahmed from Bahrain. Welcome, Ahmed. Ahmed says membership isn't supported in Bahrain. Ahmed, I'm sorry about that. There's nothing I can do about that. YouTube hopefully will extend the membership to more countries as we go. Lee was with us, but he says he's gone to play in the garden. So come on, Lee, letting the team down. I'm only joking. Lee is catching up later. Jorgen is with us. The General, welcome. Lee again is with us. Fantastic to see you with us, Lee. Lee, another of our members. Frank is with us. Jasfin, David, welcome. Callum, Ian from Edinburgh, welcome. Adrian, welcome. Adrian just made it back for the stream. Well done. Stanislav from the Ukraine, welcome. Bjarne from Denmark, welcome. Julia is with us today, welcome. Gary, also from Edinburgh, welcome. Steve is with us today in Berlin. Fantastic. Callum is with us. Yeli Savedna is with us again. Thank you for being with us. Andrew Scoins is with us. Welcome again, Andrew. And I think that's everyone. Kestutis is with us. Hi, and I haven't seen you before, so welcome. Sven is with us. And thank you, Sven, for letting me know that you can see me and you can hear me. Thank you, guys. That's a big help. If you can give me little bits of feedback in the chat, that really helps me. So we have some correct answers in the chat. So our 5th VBA building block, conditional statements, the key syntax we're looking at is if. Have you ever seen an if formula in Excel? We're going to go ahead. You can type a number in here, and I've got this concept of student grades in mind. So student grades in a UK university between 20, although that would be a really bad submission, between 20 and 90. So, and 40 is the pass mark. Okay, so I'm going to say 40 is the pass mark here. And I'm going to say grade here. And then did the grade pass? And I'm going to go ahead and just put a number here. So pass question mark. You can see when I'm doing these inputs, I'm not double clicking on the cell. You see a lot of people double clicking around in Excel. You don't need to do that. You can just navigate to the cell using the arrows and then go ahead and type something in. So we've got the grade. And then we want to know, is the grade above or below 40? And we're going to type that in here. And we're going to do that first using a formula. Then we're going to do it using VBA too. And that's going to be our introduction to simple conditional statements. So can you put this formula together? Let's go ahead. Equals if. And then first we're being asked for a logical test. So Excel is saying to us, what is the condition? That's what Excel means by logical test. What do you want me to look at in order to understand what to do? Now, if the logical test is true, and we could have any kind of logical test, but usually it's to do with the value in a cell. So we're saying to Excel, does the value in this cell equal this? Is the value in this cell more than this or less than this? Whatever it might be, that's what we mean by a logical test. And we do the same in VBA. And then if the logical test is true, so if that value is what we specify, Excel's going to do this. And if that logical test is not true, so it's not met, so the value is not what we specify, Excel's going to do this. So this is how it works in a formula, and this is the basic concept. Logical test, a condition. If the condition is met, we're going one way. If the condition is not met, we're going another way. Super powerful stuff. We're going to see it working in VBA in a second. So to complete the formula, we're going to click on this cell here. And the logical test is, remember what was our pass mark? Well, we've written it there. So if B6 is more than 40, then we want to put pass in here. So you can see I've put the speech marks there. Those speech marks are important. We want that text to appear in the cell. And then if it's not, so if our logical test does not happen, if the condition is not met, then we're going to go to the second part of the formula. So we've got the idea of Excel going one of two ways. This is what conditional statement helps us do. So we can now hit enter. What are we expecting to happen? Okay, we've got past that. We were expecting that to happen. How could we test this? We always test. We do our experimentation. So let's go 35 here. What are we expecting to happen now? And we do have fail now. What if we have 39? We still have fail. And what if we have 40? And 41 is going to take us to pass, of course. If we wanted to make this equal to or more than, do we put the equal sign there? I can never remember the order. Does the equals come first or does the little arrow first? Okay, and Excel is trying to correct this formula for me. Thank you, Excel. So we hit yes. And now, yeah, it's a bit fairer to the students now. So if they scrape through with 40, they are going to get that pass. Now, one comment quickly about this formula. Can anybody offer me a critique of this formula? We have got some members in the chat today. This is the kind of thing we're always talking about in Members Monday. Well done to Lee and Jasmine as well, with some good contributions there. Welcome to Peter, who's made the live stream. Good to have you with us. Sandy with us as well. Fantastic to see you. Can anybody offer some criticism of this formula? My criticism would be we've got what we call values embedded in code or values embedded in formulae. This practice of having a number in a formula is generally bad practice, just as having a number in VBA is generally bad practice. That's because it's difficult to change. If the business circumstances were to change, or in this case, the education circumstances, we'd want to quickly change that value, having to go into a formula or still worse, into the VBA editor to make those changes. Well, that's not really acceptable for, the normal user. So rather than having a value in there, we'd want to, let's do it like this. Let's say pass mark, and then let's say 40 here. So rather than having the value in the formula, let's have the value in a cell. So I'm going to hit the F2 key now. That's going to allow me to edit the formula. Then just delete the value, the hard-coded value there, and then just hit the cell that has 40 in. We can now see we're now getting the same result. But if I change this to 35, now what's going to happen to our conditional statement, our if formula there? That's still passing. If it goes to 45, that's now a fail, of course. So just a bit of a side note there. Try to avoid values embedded in formulae, embedded in VBA. So this is our basic idea, and hopefully that gives you a sense. Hopefully that gives you a sense of the concept, if you like, the concept of conditional statements. Now, you also might be thinking, well, if I can do this with formulae, why should I use VBA to do this? If you're thinking that, you are thinking on the right lines. And to be honest with you, the example we're doing today is a little bit contrived because you would do it using formulae in real life. But if you're already thinking, when is it best to use formulae? When is it best to use VBA? It's good that you're accessing that debate now in your head, because when you move through your career, it's good to be able to critically evaluate the best option. Is it best to use VBA to do this? Is it best to use formulae to do this? VBA doesn't fix everything. VBA is not a panacea. VBA works best with the worksheet, as you've felt already on this course, and VBA and formulae working together is like fish and chips, like poetry in motion. So let's see in the chat. Hello, Mamo, welcome. And Ian, absolutely right, says a hard-coded variable. And Steve, absolutely. Good, Steve. Steve's saying, what if the pass mark changes? Steve's actually a teacher in real life, so he's all over this. Good to see you, Steve. And Janardan is with us. Welcome, Janardan. No worries that you're joining late. Callum says, good point. Yeah, all of these discussions, debates, these are all going to kind of tick over in the background, and we're not going to go into too much detail on this course, but as you go through your programming career, you've got to think about this. So this functionality, can we translate it into VBA? Let's say pass Alt-HOH 30 here, and let's say F2. I'm going to type in FX for formula. And then here, let's say pass VBA. So here we've got the formula-based solution. Here we're going to put in a VBA-based solution. Exciting stuff. So we're talking VBA. What do we need to do? Get into the VBA editor. So Visual Basic here. And then let's get some nice display here. I'm just going to pull this window across a little bit. Alt-H-O-W. No, that's not it. Alt-H-O-W. Here we go, Alt-H-O-W and 3. Sometimes my computer fights over which program can use the shortcuts. So quite alarmingly there, I was going for an Excel shortcut and it went into my streaming software and I almost shortcutted something. So look out for that, certainly later in your career when you're live streaming Excel development. So let's go ahead and... Okay, even more alarmingly, Support Assist is now running on my monitor laptop here. So I might lose that monitor, but it's not the main laptop. Let's keep pushing on. Let's keep going. Right, insert module. Okay, we've got option explicit. Have you been explaining to people at home what option explicit means? And then let's say sub and conditional. Let's say input. Input pass here, something like that. Okay, so let's get started with this. So what's the little piece of syntax in the formula? It's if. In VBA, it's also if. So our logic is going to be, let's be clear about the concept first. If the value in this cell is more than the value in this cell, then we want pass to appear here. If the value in this cell is less than the value in this cell, then we want fail to appear here. So if you're watching on replay, go ahead and see if you can put it together yourself. It's not too bad, this one. So the first range is B6. Being careful with the syntax there. So the speech marks around the cell references. If B6 is more than, and let's say range D3, okay, then. So we've got our basic syntax going in there, if at the beginning and then at the end. And let's set up the whole if statement now. The if statement is going to go in one of two directions, just like the formula did. We have our logical test, then if the test is true, this is happening. If the test is false, this is happening. In the same way, we're going to work in two different directions with if, else, and end if. So this is our logical test, our condition at the top. If this condition is met, we're going to go into this part of the code here. This part of the code here, you can just see my cursor flashing. And then if the condition is not met, we're going to go down to this part of the code here. So it's a bit like the formula. That's why I always demonstrate the formula first. The way it works is very similar. So what do we want to happen? So now we're working with ranges, going back to our building blocks, seeing these techniques combined together. So this is D6, range D6 equals 6 equals pass. That if the condition is not met, then you could say I just copy pasted that. So how did I do that with the keyboard? Hold down the shift key and the left arrow, then Control C on the keyboard, then going down, repositioning the cursor, Control V to copy in there. So this code looks like it's going to do the job. Just doing my sense check now. So D6, yes, that's the right cell. And then D3, yes, that looks like the right cell. And then B6 also looks like the right cell. So I can go ahead now. I'm just going to spread these out. You know, the spacing doesn't matter for the execution, but I think it just makes things a little bit clearer in terms of the display. Yeah, people in the chat saying, Peter's saying more or equal to. Should we go ahead and put that in now? And am I going to put it on the wrong side? Yeah, I did put it on the wrong side and Excel fixed it for me. So thank you there to Excel. So the equals goes after the arrow in the VBA editor. I'm going to hit the F8 key now. So stepping through the code, you can go debug step into, or Steve, you're now going to write in the chat the shortcut for Mac, for stepping through the code. So you can see, let's start that again. So Excel's now checking the condition. Because the condition is true, let's make this a bit more kind of explicit here. and start again. Because the condition is true, we're going to go into the first part of the conditional statement, and we should see pass appear now there. So what if the condition was false? Okay, now we're expecting the opposite thing to happen, hitting the F8 key. Going back through the code, what's going to happen here, you can see we've skipped out. We didn't go through the first part of the conditional statement into the second part of the conditional statement, and keep your eye on cell D6. We can see fail appearing there. And did you see how our formula updated as well at the same time? That was interesting. So because we inputted a value into the spreadsheet, Excel calculated everything and our formula updated too. Pretty cool. Okay, so basic conditional statement. So what do you think? Are you following in the chat? Steve saying, so who can tell me the Mac shortcut for stepping through the code? Somebody yesterday had it. I think one of our Spanish viewers had it yesterday. Somebody posted it in the last stream towards the end. So if you just head on to Google, again, another Excel meta skill. What we've got a problem. What are we going to do? We're just going to give up? No, just head on to Google, Excel VBA, Mac, step into shortcut. You'll be able to find the keyword shortcut there. Good. 41 viewers today. Amazing. Over 40 viewers and 10 likes. Thank you very much for being with us. So let me set you a challenge. And again, it'd be a good idea to stop the video now and see if you can do this. So say we had 10 students here. I'm going to go ahead and generate 10 random grades. Can be tempting to actually mark papers in this way to generate grades randomly. Don't recommend it. So rand between, let's use the rand between formula here. If you don't have the rand between formula on your system for whatever reason, you can just type these values in manually. So rand between, we can choose a random number between two values. So again, let's say 20 to 90 here, and you can see I've put the comma in there. Hit enter, and then you can just drag this down. But I prefer to use the keyboard. So make sure the cell is selected, hold down the shift key. Then we want to go for about 10 rows, and then Control D on the Windows PC. Control D on the Windows PC is going to auto fill down. We've got 11 there. I can see at the bottom of Excel. Let me just point that out to you because that is useful. At the bottom of Excel down here, Excel's counting the number of cells that we have selected. And I can see, the number of cells that have values in. So I can see I've got 11 cells there. Just delete that. So we've now got 10 cells. So we've now got some random values in here. If you now go to, let's go back to the big view. Oh, all this live editing. If you now go to formulas, calculation options, and calculate here, you'll see those random values changing. That's because every time Excel calculates, it's going to change the random numbers, which is not ideal for us actually. You can just hit the F9 key to have the same effect. Hit F9, you can see those random numbers changing. So let me know, any teachers in the chat going to be using random numbers to grade their papers next time? It's only a joke, of course. I'm not recommending this. So rather than having random values, it would be better to have normal fixed values. So let's go ahead, Control C and Control Alt V on the Windows PC, holding down Control and Alt and hitting V. And let's just convert these to values. So now we hit values. At the moment, these are formulae. We can tell because we've got a formula in the formula editing bar. So let's convert to values, hit OK. And now we can see we've got values there. So when I hit the F9 key now to get Excel to calculate, these values are not going to change. So we've got a challenge now. Now we can see one of the benefits of using formulae as opposed to VBA. We can just double click here and that formula is going to come down, although there is going to be a problem with it. Can anybody in the chat see the problem with this formula now? What kind of referencing are we missing here? Let me see in the chat anything I can help here. Yeah, Stanislav has put the keyboard shortcut in the chat. Thank you for that, Stanislav. Henrik says, how do we utilize method copy along with if then? Henrik, well, we're going to see how we can scale up this approach. We're going to incorporate something in a second to scale this up. I'm not quite sure if that's what you mean. And Bjarne, yes, slump melon for ram between, of course, in Danish. Very good. And Stanislav, thank you for the contribution there in another language. And good, Eduardo is saying, I'm guessing we check out Eduardo's contribution in the chat. Good, and Lee is on the money here. Yep, we need an absolute reference here. So as we can see, when we copy the formula down, I'm hitting the F2 key, When we copy the formula down, we can see this reference for the pass mark is coming down as well. That's because it's currently a relative reference. We want to make it an absolute reference. So go to the first formula, click in the bar, and then what's the keyboard shortcut on Windows? The F4 key. Hit the F4 key. We're going to get the dollar signs. Have you ever seen the dollar signs in a spreadsheet and wondered what does that mean? It's an absolute reference. So wherever that formula goes, that reference is going to be fixed. It's absolute. It's going to be fixed to that cell. So again, now Control D to take this formula down, and we can see, hitting the F2 key, that we're referring to the correct cell, and just doing a sense check, I can see 44 is a pass, 26 is a fail, so this seems to be working well. So we're doing that with formulae there. We want to do that with VBA. A bit conscious of time, so I'm going to have to push ahead with a little bit of pace here. Yeah, Eduardo, absolutely right. So what do we need to add to our code to get this done? So I want to populate these cells here with the right information. So is the grade a pass or a fail? But we want to do that programmatically. We've done it formulaically here. We want to do it programmatically here using Excel VBA. The first step is always the concept. Yeah, the mistake people make, they jump in, let's start coding, let's try to fix it. Try to take a step back and think of my building blocks. I've got a couple of building blocks here. What's going to help me to get this done? And just talking about it out loud. You know, you'll often catch me in my office. I'm not saying you're going to come and stand outside my office or something. That would be strange, but you'll see me in my office, literally walking around my office, speaking out loud how I want the code to work. You've got to actually say it in your own language, build that conceptual understanding first. Well, we know one thing. We want to repeat an instruction, don't we? This instruction we have for cell D6, we want to repeat that. So we have a repeated instruction. What does that mean? That means we're going to need a loop. And again, let's use a for next loop like we did yesterday. And you could even use some of the syntax that you have yesterday. Maybe you're in the same workbook or something. You could even copy paste it in to get this working faster. So with the for next loop, we have for counter equals 1 to 10. We have 10 values. That should be fine. Now we've opened the loop. We need to make sure we close the loop straight away. And I guarantee some of you are going to get into problems here. When you have a conditional statement inside a loop, this can be problematic. So you've got to be on top of the syntax here. You'll notice what I did there. I just indented the conditional statement to kind of emphasize all of this syntax belongs together. It's all working together. That's called indentation. That's good practice in VBA, good practice in computer programming generally. Okay, so now what do we have to do to get this working? So we've got our loop in there. We're going to have a repeated instruction. If I step through the code now, it's not quite going to do what I want it to do. So what else will we need here? Absolutely, got some good contributions coming here. Biana says for each. We could do this using a for each loop. I'm using a for next loop today because we've previously done a for next loop. We'll come on to for each loops later. Okay, so what's the other kind of ingredient, the other building block we need here? Because we're going through the loop, but we need to achieve this kind of moving down. So it's to do with position, of course, which means offset. Offset is going to help us. Remember, you can go back to session 3 or 4, was it? There we go. Stanislav is on it in the chat. Fantastic stuff. So range B6, I'm going to start in B5. Put this anchor point in B5. Why do we start in B5? Well, counter equals 1 first. So that's going to take us into B6 once we set this up. Range B5 dot offset. Biana's on the money too as well. Well done, Biana. Offset counter. So remember, offset rows down first and a positive number takes us down. Columns across, second, and a positive number takes us to the right as we look at the spreadsheet. So we don't want to go any columns across, we just want to go rows down. So where's it? So if counter equals 1, we're going to start in B5, and then counter equals 1. That's going to take us to B6. So that sounds good. Okay, so what's going to happen now? Let's do a kind of intermediary test to see what's happened. I don't think this is going to get it done, but it's going to allow us to learn about what's going on, and we should be able to fix it. So I'm going to check the value of the variable. Counter is 1. B5 offset, counter 0. Yes, that looks good to me. So we're going to go, yeah, the value is 20 in cell B6. So the condition is not met. So we're going to go to the second part of the conditional statement. We're going to see fail in there. Now counter equals 2. So now we're going to look at cell B7. So B5, 2 rows down, cell B7. So where are we going to go now? Ask yourself the question. So the condition is met now. So we're going to go into the first part of the conditional statement, and we're going to see pass appear in cell D6. And that's how it's working. So what do we need to do to finish this off? Got the mechanism working there nicely. What do we need to do? Yeah, good skills chat, Steve says. Yeah, great contributions in the chat today, and loving the little sense of community that we're getting already in 30 for 30. Getting the same people turning up every day, a few new people turning up. Freddie with a good contribution here. Freddie is saying, why not create a button to make the VBA testing faster? Great shout, Freddie. Let's put a button in. Let's put it at the top here. So putting a button in is a very routine job in VBA. So we've got to practice it. Hold down the Alt key here, and input pass is the macro that we want to run. When we click this button, right click to edit the text, and then we're just going to say grade. So it's a bit like grading papers, if only it were this easy. Right, how do we finish off this code? Very good from Stanislav. Good, yeah, and Jasmine is really on the money here in terms of the detail. Let's make all of these anchor points begin on row 5. Yeah, just for consistency here. Row 5, and row 5. And then we should be able to just copy paste this syntax. So holding down the shift key using the arrows there, Control C, Control V here, and Control V. So we can see, yeah, there is some repetition in this code. That would be my critique, and there might be a way to write this more concisely, avoiding the repeated construct here, the dot offset counter construct. But this should do the job for us. Control S, save the file, doing my sense check now. Does it look reasonable? Does look reasonable enough. So we've got a button in here. We should be able to click the button, and let's see what happens. Looks reasonable enough. Yeah, we've got pass, got a fail here, got a fail here, pass, and a fail at the top. Looks reasonable enough. Let's put some different values in. Change you to 50, change you to 0. And then let's hit this again, and we can see, yeah, seems to be working well there. So that's your introduction to conditional statements, guys. That's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, we're just using 10 rows there, a little data set with 10 rows. You could have 100 rows, you could have 100,000 rows. You'll be able to scale this up very quickly to get this done. And bear in mind the discussion we've had. Yes, you could do this with formulae as well. VBA presents some advantages. This particular task, you know, in some situations you might want to use VBA to do this, but typically you'll probably actually use formulae to do this kind of thing typically, although you could argue VBAs in some situations would work better. It's kind of a contrived example. It's a learning example for us to see the power here of conditional statements, not just the power of conditional statements, but conditional statements working with our other VBA building blocks, particularly loops and position control, putting values into ranges to get this job done. How about that? Okay, any further questions, please? Any further questions in the chat? And yeah, just stick your questions in the chat. I'll answer them before the end of the stream. But today, special day today, because we are going straight into Members Monday, pretty much straight into Members Monday. Anyway, at 5 o'clock, we're going into Members Monday. So you'll see people in the chat with the little symbol by their names. It's like a little S symbol by their names, their channel members. So, and if you have Members Monday level membership, you'll be joining us for our Members Monday live stream. So this is where we take a real world VBA task, work through it together. I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm thinking, the kind of decisions I'm making. Like today, we've been talking about the merits of using formulae as opposed to VBA, taking a real world practical perspective, hopefully boosting your Excel VBA skill. We've been doing Members Monday for about 3 months now, had some really good feedback, people loving it, and we're building a nice little community, and we've already had some people join from the 30 for 30 streams. We'll be getting started in about 20 minutes, 5 o'clock, Members Monday number 17. I'd absolutely love to see you there. Yeah, we've got some good contributions in the chat. Frank has put some syntax in there. So a different way of doing the same job. Yeah, I'm liking what you're saying, Frank. So give Frank's solution a go if you want a little extension to this task. Bjarne says, I work with robots and it's preferred to execute a macro over filling in formulae. Okay, so Bjarne's saying there, yeah, there's certainly some situations where it will be better to use a macro rather than using formulae. The main benefit of using a macro is you don't have formulae sitting in the spreadsheet. If we look at these values here, we can see that these are literally values. So look at the editing bar at the top. There's no formulae there. If we go across, we do have formulae there. Now, if you have lots of formulae, they can slow down calculation in Excel. You've probably used a kind of slow spreadsheet. So that's one advantage of VBA. It means we don't have formulae hanging around in the spreadsheet. Lee says, do I come back here for Members Monday? Members Monday, I post a link in the community tab on the YouTube channel. So go to the YouTube channel on your PC, go to the community tab, and you'll be able to see the link to Members Monday. Obviously, it's only for members, so it's not generally available. Adrian says, another testing session for this evening to be completed. Absolutely, guys. If you really want to push ahead, don't just be satisfied with the examples I give you. Go away, work with the code, do some testing, do some experimentation. I'm always talking about play, and that's going to really build your learning. Peter says, I have Asperger's, I'm a robot. Yeah, I like that, Peter. I've seen people with kind of similar conditions be very, very good programmers. Attention to detail is so important in computer programming. Stanislav, we are waiting for new lessons. We'll be back here 4 o'clock tomorrow, Stanislav. Yulia says, thank you. Welcome. Yelis Vetness says, thank you for the lesson. Very informative. Excellent. The General says, thanks a lot, Chrissy. I salute you. Respect to the General. See you again tomorrow. And Lee says, thanks, Chris. I'll see you Members Monday. And Bjarne says, yeah, that's an advantage of VBA, of course, if you have big data sets. And Olga, I haven't seen you in the chat before, but welcome, and you're welcome. I was going to say welcome and thank you, but you're saying thank you. So who's saying thank you? Who's saying you're welcome? Crazy. We'll say thank you to each other. And I hope to see you all tomorrow. If I don't see you in Members Monday, hope you're taking care of yourself as best you can. The sun shines out here in the UK. I've been out for a nice walk, and I've got to do 30 for 30 with Members Monday to come as well. So I'm having a decent day. Take care of yourself, guys. I will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock UK time.